Hello, spirit friends. Welcome to my channel where we'll be keeping a Jeep so you can rise and be awoken and no longer sleep. And today's topic is going to be about I see spirits. And I picked this topic because I'm starting to learn that me, my old self, and it don't have nothing to do with who I'm becoming today. I've been materialistic all my life. And when you be materialistic all your life, you don't know how to see beyond the surface. This is all surface level. 3D is all surface. Things you can touch and manage with money, can obtain with money. It's all 3D and things that's just in this realm, that only exists. We don't know about anything else outside of when we dream. So I'm learning to just see people for their spirit. Who are you? Because sometimes we do things and we don't really be our true self. And I like to go beyond that and see, why does this person act like this? Why does this person react like this? And a lot of times it be their 3D and sometimes it be their spirit. And you got to kind of know how to differentiate the two. So to get into the topic, question 1 for Keepinitgeep: do you find spirituality hard to believe, being that you have to believe in the unknown as well? No, it's not hard at all, because actually we are spirits first. When we come into this 3D realm, once again, or for the one time only, either or, whatever you believe, they say, we don't know who we are. We lose that consciousness of knowing what we came here to do. So we got to find it. So spirituality is just something that you just, like magic, boom. Once you come here, boom, you tackle with it. You can't run from it. You can't run from your destiny and what's meant for you. Rather you go down this path, which is wrong, or rather you go down the right path, which is, gonna get you everything. This right here within is really what you're trying to run from, by trying to run from it in the 3D and do everything outside to get this right, which is within, which is yourself. So you try to obtain all these materialistic things that don't mean anything. I've never seen nobody that passed away went in the grave with everything they ever had. So I'm just being real. So spirituality is definitely not hard to believe. And yeah. Question 2 for Keepinitgeep: how do you know when you genuinely find your spiritual purpose? Everything's just a flow. It don't get no better than that. Everything's just a flow. You won't have too many distractions anymore. You won't have too many things to try to sway you off your track. Where you're headed, where you're trying to go, where you've been trying to get to anymore. Because a lot of times while we have things trying to sway us, because they're actually trying to help us. And we take that as an insult, or this person is hating, or this person don't want to see me win, or this person just want to see me down. No, this person is actually set up for the spiritual realm as a distraction to help you see you're doing it wrong again. You're doing something wrong. You're not guided in the right direction. You need this person help for real. If you really read between the lines, if you know how to read the spirit, and just be, something you see on a daily basis that seems like it's just, I keep seeing the same number, or I keep seeing the same bird keep flying past my house. It's getting annoying. But that bird is trying to tell you something. Maybe you a person, looking at it in a spirit form. Maybe you a person keep seeing this bird go past your house over and over again, same type of bird. Maybe you're supposed to be a person that's into like animal control or veterinarian, So, maybe you should look into something else. Just see, try to look into it. You already love animals, but when it comes to, that heartfelt feeling, that flow that I talked about in the beginning, it's not there, and you want that flow. Question 3 for Keepinitgeep: do you think that life itself, along with spirituality, only exists because we know about it, and if we didn't, it wouldn't exist? Of course, they have to put, certain things intact, because the human brain has to, regulate it. We have to feel like we are part of something, in order to feel as a collective, as a whole, as a person, because a lot of people don't know how to get back to their true self, to them, who they are. A lot of people are only living a certain way because they seen it somewhere. So basically they knew, the elites, the higher ups, in the 3D realm knew that we have to put a certain attachment to that. We have to frame that as something, even if it ain't the truth. We have to pinpoint that as something that you are a part of or people can follow. Because if not, we don't have control. We need something to basically control them. So without it, it would be more people find themselves, obviously. So moving on to question 4 for Keepinitgeep. Would you be curious about spirituality to learn more about it if it wasn't put on you at some point in your life? Of course, because just like I'm learning new things now, I would love to not have things put on me because it was taught down the line to my mom or to my dad or to my uncles or my aunties. I would have loved to explore life. That's what exploring life means. You don't know nothing about it. You're gonna experience it and explore it for your own good, for your own first time, without somebody bringing it to your attention and, basically pushing it on you. And you may not have been ready for it. A lot of people don't be ready to grow, but it's pushed on them. So, it's a lot of conflict when that happens. And I was one of those people. So, you have to I think it should be where, you start, when you come out the womb, you don't get your name yet. You don't get, certain things just yet until you operate a certain way. And then, you kind of get pinpointed to something or get named something or you get approached with something, depending on your characteristics. In other countries, I've overheard and read upon, they still do that today. So yeah, we halfway through the questions. Make sure you guys subscribe, share it, comment. Let me know how you guys feel about what I'm giving you guys, because these are my questions and these are my thoughts that I always had, about these questions. And I'm just happy that I'm able to share with you guys. Question 5 for Keepinitgeep. Will life feel easier to flow with if just religion and spirituality was taken away or never a thing? Of course, because now you have to express the real you. You have no other way to run. Just think about it. I'm gonna give you guys something to think about. If our grandparents, our mothers and fathers, never ever got taught from generations on about certain books to mainly control, like I said once again, the narrative of how certain things are supposed to be ran in order to abide by something, so you won't never become your truest self and explore, this 3D for real. Without that book, these people that right now will be living totally different lives. Just think about how many people are just living off certain books and religions that they're following, and while they're living their lifestyle and feeling restricted, deep down inside their spirit is feeling restricted, because spirit don't want that. Spirit flows. It flows just like the water. The water is a proven example. Water flows, don't it? When you tap the water, a big old puddle of water, it's gonna flow. You're gonna see the waves flowing. That's how life supposed to be. We get glimpses of these things, in different shapes and forms. But why we can't flow like that? Why we gotta feel restricted at work? Why we gotta, pay for gas? We bought the car already. Why we gotta pay for gas? Okay, we gotta eat. Why we gotta eat animals in order to survive? Why we have to train our body to eat animals, and if we don't have it, we up here with it so much that, dang, I ain't gonna eat no more. Dang, I might be losing weight. So now you done tricked your mind to, I need this. I have to survive off this. Why we can't feel unrestricted? Everything, if you think about it, has a restriction to it that you're stuck to and that you're trained to do. So question 6 for Keepinitgeep. Do you guys really believe in order to summon spirits, you have to be on a certain frequency or anyone can do so? I feel like it depends on what spirit you're talking about. Because if you are already low vibrational, you know, there's only so much you can do. You know, so everything dark, yes, you bound to do it. You already on that frequency, so you bound to do it, and you can tap into, you know, that other side if you train your mind and put your power into that. That's what negative and positive mean. Why do black people have to be the negative when it comes to power to the car? The red, which is what they call red, why they red? For the power. And the black, which is where the black cable go to, had to be the negative. So I think I got a little bit off topic, but I hope you guys really catch that, because that was something that was super spicy that I never heard nobody say that. Moving on to question 7 for Keeping It Jeep. Being that you have a vessel, how would you feel if at some point in your life, everyone that became their best, truest self turned into spirit form? Ooh, man, I forgot I even asked that question. That question crazy. It would feel so amazing, because everybody that was a vessel, a flesh, like me talking into this camera, whenever you guys see me next time and I was able to be at my truest self, you would know that, because I'm in spirit form. I look totally different than you. Literally, visibly, you can see it. You can feel it when I'm by you. I'm going through your body now, as they would say. I'm going to just keep it on a level that we know it as. I don't believe that necessarily. I'm not going to get into it. I don't believe it's like a ghost. You go through it as when you're a spirit, you just go through as a ghost all day, every day. Like, that's who you are as a ghost. Spirit is just another entity of, another way of life, another nature of living. So yeah, when it comes to that, in the form of Casper, as people know it as, when you're a spirit or a ghost or whatever, you would know that, especially in this 3D realm. You would know if the person that's next to you is actually growing, because their body will gradually be turned into the Casper body, the Casper self of them. Question 8 for Keeping It Jeep. If you could choose your own spirit animal for every time you dream from being your human form, what would you be? I love this question. I remember writing this one. And the animal I would be, and it's crazy because my daughter mother, when I met her, I asked her what was her favorite animal. That's kind of like cheesy, like, oh my God, that's kind of like popcornish. It's like, oh my God, why would you ask me that? I still asked it, because I never really asked no one that, because I actually do have an animal I would be. And the animal I would be is a panther, So on the flip side of my flesh self, it would be so beautiful if I was able to, every time I go to sleep and rest this flesh form, to give this flesh form a break, I would turn into a panther. And I remember writing this question and putting it down before I had it on wax on here. I remember even where I was at, putting this question together. I was at the mall, at our local mall, and it made me feel real happy about myself, even getting to that level of thinking, because who thinks about that? That's a whole nother chapter. That's a whole nother side of, thinking, a whole nother way of how you could be, if it was possible. If I feel like life was all put together as peaches and cream, like they try to make it as when it comes to the 3D, why is this missing? Why we can't do stuff like this? But that's all I have for you guys on today's vlog of Keeping It Jeep. An open mind should evolve when consciously teach.